Hey guys, so I got a little bit of a different video for you today, and I just kind of wanted to talk about one of my favorite kinds of decks, and that's decks that have a bunch of cards with the same name. And I know it's Digimon, so every deck has a bunch of cards with the same name, but I mean cards that break the rules and say that you can have as many of whatever you want in the deck as you want. Um, and I just kind of want to talk about it in the context of like lore. All right. So just to start things off, the first deck that really, and this one didn't, I guess, exactly have what I was describing, but I think it's kind of in the same vein, right? So Argomon, when he came out in BT2, was like the first actual deck that you could just have you could basically build Argomon who digivolved into Argomon who digivolved into Argomon who digivolved into Argomon, and then you digivolve on top of that into Argomon. All right. So how that relates to the lore is in the Digimon 2020, right? Which is like the first place that I saw Argomon. You had a bunch of the little ones, right? And they're doing their thing, eating stuff, all that kind of crap. And then they get attacked. So what do? They combine together to form a little bit bigger Argomons. All right. And then when the little bit bigger Argomons aren't enough, they end up combining together into the biggest Argomon. All right. So representing that in game, you do have like a bunch of stuff about like the various Argomons help to digivolve each other faster. This one gives specifically Argomon abilities. This is the like all of this just kind of builds on top of itself very quickly in order to get into your highest level Argomon as quick as possible. And I just think that hits the lore very well. Okay, and personally, if I was going to make a guess about what's going to come next, I think that DNA digivolving lower level Argomons into the bigger Argomons to kind of save memory and get up there quickly. I think that would be a really flavorful way to continue that concept. All right. So next we come to Diaboromon. What's Diaboromon? When he first started in, I think it was also BT2, but I think he's further. He's like lower on the list. So technically, I'm still correct. Um, he's a Digimon, and he makes all kinds of tokens. He's like, for the longest time, the only Digimon that made tokens were the various versions of Diaboromon and Diaboromon support. So or Diaboromon accessories, right? So why does it do? So why does it do that? Well, in the movie, Diaboromon kind of has to fight for himself, right? And when he's attacked as a Caramon, he does the Warp Digivolve up into Infamon. So we have the Warp Digivolving Infamon and also the Warp Digivolving Caramon, right? Especially that second one, because that one does it on your opponent's turn in response to your opponent being aggressive towards you. And then he gets into Diaboromon. So Diaboromon then starts spitting out tokens, and the different versions have different ways of making the tokens. So in that case, it's a Digimon who makes copies of itself, which aren't technically Digimon, right? They're weaker versions. They're shown to be less durable and just deleted by the thousands whenever Omnimon gets on the case, right? And we can even kind of see that later on in that the Diaboromon tokens are deleted to kind of save Diaboromon. I mean, in all honesty, if you've seen the scene, then there's huge explosions everywhere. How likely is it that Diaboromon, the original, is the only one that wasn't hit, right? So Digimon makes non-Digimon. Lore holds up. Okay. So next up, Eosmon. All right. So how does this lore work? Well, Morphomon and Manoa are friends. Okay. And at a certain point in her life, Morphomon gets deleted. Okay. Manoa is now upset, angry, all this kind of stuff, and she makes Eosmon based off of Morphomon's data. Well, she also makes a bunch more Eosmon, a bunch of copies. So these are true copies, true Digimon. They're shown to be weaker because they're swarming all over the place, and they aren't getting through with like they aren't just blasting apart, other Digimon. There's even a Numamon that goes toe to toe with one of these for a long time, right? So while they're real Digimon capable of digivolving and doing all their own things, created by a human, they aren't that strong because it's just a copy paste data. It doesn't need to be strong. It just needs to be numerous, right? And then you combine a bunch of them together to make the big Eosmon. Okay? And of course, it's the same data being used over and over again. So it's not like it changes anything. It's not like Agumon into Greymon. They're both dinosaurs, sure. But obviously, Agumon is accepting data from other places and it changes his physical appearance. So even though there's more data, because it's the same data over and over again, it doesn't change its identity, right? And of course, Manoa is like still working with him and doing all her stuff. Okay, so lore represented in the card game still kind of holds up. All right. Next, we go back to Digimon 2020. So you have Negamon, who just a bad dude, shows up and is talked about as like I think it's the failure of Digimon. He's almost Apocalypse, but he's like the evil of Digimon or something. It's been a little bit since I've seen it, but he creates different forms of Digimon to act as like servitors and to go out and find stuff, and they're empowered by Negamon. Okay. And then we get to the episodes where there's Eismon, and there are just hundreds and hundreds of Eismon all over the place. So it seems like Negamon made a bunch of Eismon for the singular purpose of, spying on the kids. And then what do? Well, they all come together and make bigger, more dangerous Digimon. In that case, they went from being Eismon scatter mode into regular Eismon, and then into um, Nidhoggmon. And so, then you have to have like Omnimon come in and save the day as always, right? But at the end of the day, we get the big bad is a Batamon, which is Negamon getting all the data and just kind of digivolving into that. So a bunch of Negamon's data comes together and becomes a Batamon. And then once you travel into Batamon, you get the Batamon core, which is kind of, in my mind, this is like Negamon saw Omnimon defeating Nidhoggmon and just kind of copied it, but was like, I'm going to make a better version of Omnimon. All right. So once again, a bunch of full-fledged Digimon come together and make bigger, badder things. Okay. So brings me to the Galacticmon deck. If you've been watching for a little bit, this is one of my favorite decks of all time. Hell, I took this to the regionals a couple of months ago. So, thing is, I have never actually played the game that this is from. I've seen one or two cutscenes, which was mostly like the final battle. Actually, yeah, I think that's the only thing I've seen is I've seen the final battle. So, seeing how consistent the Digimon like card game is with the lore from the various series, I kind of want to see if I can guess the lore behind the Galacticmon deck. All right. So I assume that at some point we just have Venmon, right? And he's going around and gathering more and more resources. Okay. And then we use that to make a bunch of Venmon. Okay. He's the deck searcher. He's gathering resources. And then at some point we combine them together into Snatchmon. All right, so bunch of Venmons fuse into Snatchmon, and Snatchmon then uses that to accelerate their Digivolution. I assume into Galacticmon, since Galacticmon has the caveat of being able to Digivolve over Snatchmon, and Snatchmon says that he can Digivolve into a Digimon with Venmon in text. So obviously there's kind of a synergy going on there. But also, we have Destromon, who can Digivolve over top of Snatchmon, and the other versions of Destromon, I believe, can Digivolve over Venmon. So it seems like Venmons, if you have enough of them, can combine together into just a Destromon. But obviously, if there's a Snatchmon available, this becomes even more powerful, right? And of course, since Venmon is your little resource gatherer, having him go into Destromon just makes sense because, I mean, obviously, that's a lot of guns. And you're going to need a lot of, resources to manage all of this weaponry. Okay? And then, of course, we can go into Galacticmon. I have heard that Galacticmon is supposed to be some satellite that was taken over by the Digimon or something. I don't know what that means. Um, but I guess so. Snatchmon combines together with a satellite, and so that's why he can be digivolved over by Galacticmon. Uh, and then since we have like when digivolving, so he's gonna play out the Ragnarok canon. This version is so I assume Ragnarok canon is the something the satellite can do, and the other one can also like delete Digimon. So it's the big bad. It's a world ender. It's super tough. Takes out a bunch of Digimon, I guess. And then, I mean, the other one even has like the other artwork has several tiny Digimon fighting men. It's not little guys. It's like Gallantmon, I think is one of them. That's shown in the foreground, and even being in the foreground of the shot, Galacticmon is shown to be massive in comparison. So, in that circumstance, I'd say that he's supposed to be really big. And since both versions of Galacticmon have the all turns stopping themselves from being removed from the field, I'd guess that it's really, really hard to kill him. Uh, I believe I'd say that's like a multi stage boss fight in the game because he can. So you have to remove him multiple times. I don't know. Like I said, I've seen like one cutscene from this game, or it might have just been part of a cutscene. I know I saw a thing where it was like I saw that Galacticmon was in the game. I think with Analog Youth. So I think that's one of the Digimon World games, but I don't know which one. I've never actually played any of them. My knowledge of the Digimon um, video games is pretty much Cyber Sleuth, Hacker's Memory. I played a little bit of Survive, and then I just recently beat Time Stranger. So I think that's it. Um, Although between you and me, I do like them more than like Pokemon games, even though I've played more Pokemon games. It's not my fault that I was at a Pokemon household and I wanted I should have been at a Digimon household. Uh, but let me know in the comments below how correct I am or how wrong I am, or if I'm just completely off base with this like just weird concept I thought of, and you know if you've played the game, yeah, just tell me how the game is. Who knows? Maybe I'd pick it up and stream it or something. But we'll see. Anyway, this is just kind of a thought that kept on kicking around in my head, and I wanted to really just talk about it. You know, I like the card game. I like the lore behind the card game. So yeah, just let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you next time. All right, bye.